kind of get why Joey gave her the rose, both in the sense that it felt like an obligation maybe, but also in terms of who we learned the most about depth-wise. We did learn the most about Leia.
And then my two other standouts are pretty oppositional, but I think this shows that I'm not totally sure who Joey's going to pick quite yet in terms of like what energy he's going to go for. Hi everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're back again this week for another Bachelor recap. Today we're recapping episode 1 of Joey's season of The Bachelor. For those of you who don't know us, we're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes on reality TV shows, especially The Bachelor. So if you're into this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation. You can also listen to us on podcast form on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So Kelly, we're back again this season. Yay!
Yeah! I'm so excited! It feels like it's been a hot minute. I've missed you all.
We are so excited to get into Joey. He is such a hot bachelor.
I'm kind of with you. I wasn't fully drinking the Kool-Aid on Joey in Charity's season, but ever since he was named The Bachelor, all of the kind of promo around him, his like appearances on these different, after the final roses and stuff, I keep seeing him and being like, oh, that's nice. this is great. So I feel like I've been re-convinced, or like I've initiated myself onto the Joey wagon, and I am ready. I'm very ready for this season. I feel very excited. I think he's so pretty. I also just think that it's something about his personality is a little bit different from, I think, the personality types of the typical bachelor. It's less of this kind of like boisterous, big, I'm a football player kind of guy, even though he is a tennis player, but it's less of like the kind of like big personality type of a lot of bachelors, like the I'm like funny and cool, and a little bit of a softer type of masculinity, which I kind of like. So I just find Joey to be very attractive because of the way that he kind of holds himself and the way that he is both very confident and like clearly he likes to have fun and stuff, but he's also like, just a bit softer and just a bit, I get the sense that he's so emotionally intelligent. He's very empathetic and kind of in touch with both what's going on for himself and the people that he's interacting with. So I just feel like maybe he's just someone I'm excited to root for.
A lot of people are saying that Joey feels like he's written by a woman, and I think that about sums him up. He feels like the leading man of a Hallmark, like rom-com or some type of, like there's just something so sweet about him. And what I like about him being such a compelling, attractive lead is that the women in the season will think the same thing, which makes the love stories so much juicier, so much more exciting to watch.
I have a weird kind of fear with Joey, which is that I feel like some people would find him very attractive, but I also kind of wonder if there is a group of people or a group of women who might just kind of find him a little boring in a way. I don't know. I would love for other y'all watching from home, let me know what you think down below. But I kind of, in a way, find Joey, even though I think he's like super hot and in my opinion one of the hottest batches we've had in a while, I also kind of wonder if he is, a niche taste in a way. I don't know. I'm not sure, because even when I was watching him, so of course the first episode we have our limo entrances, we get to know all the women, they all meet him for the first time, and I did kind of feel like a lot of the women, when I saw them with Joey, I had a little bit of it felt almost like a mismatch of personalities, not because there was anything wrong with women or anything wrong with Joey, but I was just a little bit like, a lot of these people I wouldn't necessarily think of as finding Joey attractive and vice versa. Like they were like classic bachelor personality types, like these like super hot like Instagram model women with these big personalities who are really sexy or really goofy and confident and whatever. But a lot of the personalities I was kind of like, that's just kind of not what I would mentally put next to Joey. But I don't know, what did you think? There were some girls, to your point, that I thought were like super into him. Like there were some girls I was like, ooh, you can really feel the chemistry here. But then some of them I was like, I don't know. Versus maybe like a lead like, Colton or Zach, who I kind of feel like are more like, they appeal to a lot of different people. I kind of wonder if Joey might be a little bit more niche.
I do think that Joey appeals to a very certain type of woman, and you could kind of see that throughout the episode. The people that he clicked better with, there was something about their personality that really matched Joey. Like, I think Joey has a soft, sweet, more subdued, like subtle personality, and that's not saying he's not gregarious. I just wouldn't see him being the guy that's the life of the party, but I would see him being the person that makes the cohesion really good. Like, maybe he's the one talking to everybody, or he's friends with everybody, or he's like playing games with somebody in the room and then he can have a deep conversation with somebody else. I see him as that persona. And I think that in the past, traditionally, The Bachelor has been that person that has walked in and maybe they've been holding center court. I don't see Joey doing that. I see him deferring. So I do see some women, and we'll get to this when we talk about our favorites, but Maria is an example. She seems like she like easily outshines Joey, and it's not a bad thing. I think he does like it, but that's a pretty stark contrast, you know, to like who I thought he would be with.
Yeah, that's a great example of someone who, she's got such a big personality.
She's
I actually
spicy.
really like her. I find her really interesting. But then, and seems like Joey also is interested in her. I guess it's going to be a question of like, is this going to be like an opposites attract kind of thing? Like, what kind of women is Joey actually interested in? And this is the other thing about Joey that I will be curious to unpack. I find him a little bit hard to read because we've talked about this in his season with Charity. He is a bit of like a mirror. Like, he mirrors other people's energy, and he is so good at molding himself to kind of match what the other person is putting out. So while I was watching this season premiere, I just felt like I didn't actually feel like I had a strong sense of who Joey really liked, because he was giving everyone such good energy, and it was like a little harder to read on his face who he was genuinely interested in. Like, I found myself at some points kind of surprised when he would lean in to kiss someone, because I was like, oh, was that conversation going well? Because I couldn't tell.
The girls couldn't tell either. They were just like, oh, it's happening. Yeah.
Exactly. Because I think that he is a little bit, I wouldn't say proper, and I wouldn't say fake, but just a little bit of like, he is just trying to like volley. Like, he's like playing tennis with every girl in the conversation. He's like volleying with them. So you can't actually really tell if he actually likes you or if he's just a good conversationalist and good at, you know, being, you know, in a one-on-one setting with someone. So I'll be curious to kind of unpack a little bit more of that. This was also a theme in Charity's season. Joey had a whole kind of storyline around the fact that he was a bit of a people pleaser. His family kind of all outed him during his hometowns. They were all talking to Charity about like, yeah, he kind of like changes his personality like depending on who he's dating. And it was a very indicative of the fact that maybe Joey, I don't know, not that I would say he's ingenuine, but I feel like it might be hard for us to like really get a sense of like the true Joey, and it's going to take some time to peel back those layers.
I noticed one thing when he was talking of his family about his biggest fear. He said he wanted to make sure that his feelings were reciprocated. So it already indicates that he's not going to come in strong. He's going to wait to see if the other person has interest, and if they indicate interest, then he'll feel safe indicating interest. But one thing I can tell that he's really going to be paying attention to is location and where they live. I noticed he asked a few girls last night, like, oh, where do you live?
Many people. Right? Yeah, I noticed that too. He was asking a lot of questions like that.
A lot of questions. I think that's going to be probably one of his biggest deal breakers. Like, if the girl is like, I don't know if I want to relocate to Philly, or it just depends on how much that matters to him. But he did bring it up quite a bit, enough for me to think that if editing is including this into the first episode, this means that this is something that Joey cares about. Not because he said it, but because that's like the one thing that's a consistent through the line of every conversation he's had, or most of the conversations of like, are we aligned with where we want to live? And I think from there, he's going to probably break apart connections a little bit logically. Of course, he's going to follow his heart and find that instant chemistry, but I think he's also going to be thinking about it in a more like mature way, which I kind of like, because if I lived in a certain state and I wanted to live there, I wouldn't want to have that be a deal breaker for anybody else. I'd want to be with someone that could negotiate that. So I was just noticing a little few things about Joey, not because he said it, but just because like Joey is just, you know, showing his hands to different people.
Very interesting. He wouldn't have struck me as someone who is like overly practical, but you're right that he did bring that up a lot. One thing that I did say at one point is that he really likes people who are revealing information about themselves, which is ironic because I don't feel like he reveals a lot of information about himself very easily, but he did mention that, and I had associated the location-based questions to that. I think he's just trying to get people to talk about real stuff and not just like, I'm so excited it's you. I'm so excited to be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't you, which is like the usual things people are always saying on that first day. Like there's kind of like a script of what everyone says when they first sit down with him. And it always feels like every season, in my opinion, it always feels very just like boring, scripted and like they're not actually like getting into anything very real. So I kind of feel like he was trying to skip the bullshit in a way and get into like, okay, let's actually, where are you from? What is your actual fucking life like? Like it felt like he was trying to really get into those types of questions. So that was how I interpreted the location questions. But it will be interesting to see if the location ends up being like a really big thing for him, especially considering, I mean, he used to live in Hawaii. His personality is consistent. He's so sweet with every person. He's just so gentle with each girl he was talking to. And that was very consistent. And then on the other side of it, one of the girls said something which I think kind of struck me. She was like, Joey just seems so genuine and authentic. And when she said it, I was kind of like, wait, no, he's not. Like, he's really sweet. That is consistent. And I think he genuinely cares about every person that he's talking to. Like, he genuinely is interested. He's genuinely trying to connect. And that part of him is very genuine and very consistent with each person. But I wouldn't describe him as genuine in the sense that, you know, we are getting a really clear picture of what he's actually thinking. Because I don't think... He's not the kind of guy who's saying everything that comes to his head. I think he is much more, to your point, reserved. And in that sense, it's like he's not quite ephemeral, but he's not quite genuine. He's like doing this funny little dance in these interactions. And maybe it's because it's the first night. We'll see how the season progresses. But I will be curious to see if he actually opens up a little bit more than he seems to be in this episode. He was great. I loved watching him, but I just feel like I didn't learn much about him other than the fact that he is sweet and consistently really sweet to everyone he talks to. And that's kind of the only thing. Like, I didn't actually feel like I got a good inner sense of who Joey is, but it's the first night, so there's time to learn more.
I think that he's just not... I think that he's playing ball. The clearest indication was that his first rose he gave to in the rose ceremony was one of the sisters. And I could tell when they had that whole sister act going on that he was really turned off by it. Obviously, they're just there to audition for Bachelor in Paradise. He knows that, like, he's not going to do anything that's going to fracture this, like, union between these two. You know, like, he's just not going to get in the middle of that. But for him to have given the rose to her did show the producers are probably like, you know, like keep them in for a little bit. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I do think that first episode, it's like he's a little bit like just kind of like, I'm going to do what the producers want. I'm going to do what I want. And I'm just going to show the mixed range of people that I'm interested in. And all of the people that he was choosing, it's not like it terribly surprised me, but I couldn't get a good sense of the kind of girl that he was looking for. I think I know the kind of girl he's looking for, but I can't tell. If he's just like open to so many people that I was like, he could be completely surprising, or he could just like show who he is more towards the middle when like, you know, it starts to become his show.
So let us know down below, what are your thoughts so far on Joey as the lead? How is he doing as the Bachelor? And what kind of Bachelor do you think he's going to be? What challenges do you think he's going to face? And what do you think about our discussion about, is he being genuine with these women? Is he opening up? Is he going to be a super practical, logical guy? Is he gonna show his true emotions? What do you think? Let's keep the conversation going down below. Speaking of which, have we mentioned that we have an Instagram? Come find us on there. We're posting more quick takes, behind the scenes of our filming, our kind of like after hours thoughts on the latest Bachelor Nation relationship news. It's a really fun way to stay connected, and you can always DM us about the things that you're excited to hear us talk about.
This season felt like it was a season for the girls. Like, are you treating other girls well? Are you being kind to each other? Being part of the group seems like it's a really big value. Some of the standouts for me so far, I think we have to discuss Leah, because Leah was such a big plot line this episode, and I think that she'll probably make it decently far in the season. I like her. I think she's super pretty. I think she's exactly who I would think Joey would want to be with. She's somebody that cries when she thinks about hurting other people's feelings. When she opened the card and it was this, stealing a one-on-one date, she just immediately started welling up with tears, and she was like so torn about it. And that's exactly the quality of the kind of girl I think Joey would be interested in. Somebody who is super, super caring and just very aware of taking care of other people in a really conscientious, considerate way. But just being sweet together doesn't make a relationship. It just makes two people that have similar overlapping values. I think it's great that she got the first impression rose, but it was like he was matching her gesture. She's like, I'm throwing it in the fire. He's like, I'm giving you the first impression rose because you not stealing a one-on-one means that it's just going to be like much easier for everybody. Like, it's so considerate. I really like the person that you are. I felt like he was doing it because she had done this thing that was really kind for him and for everybody else in the group. Do you remember Brianna from Zach's season where she got that America's card? I think she got the first impression rose or something. It was some gimmick where she got like pushed past the rounds, and then she started to get super insecure because she thought, does Zach like me or did America like me? And that's why I'm kind of getting pushed along. And I feel like Leah is kind of in the same predicament, or at least this is my interpretation. She and Joey would be a really natural match, and I kind of wish I saw that chemistry thrive without grand gestures being communicated.
I really like Leah. I think that she is someone who I agree I would see Joey with, actually, based on their values, their personality types, just kind of like a similar kind of softness to fun ratio. They kind of have like a similar ratio of being like soft, but like kind of enjoying like being goofy and having fun. Like, I've watched Leia on Instagram, and her personality seems like it's just so like buoyant and like effervescent and delightful to be around. But we kind of didn't even really get to see any of that so far, even though we've seen her twice already after the final rose where Joey became the Bachelor. And in this episode, it felt like we still don't have like a good, strong sense of Leia's like more organic, natural personality, because she's kind of in these contrived storylines, to your point. It's exactly like that Brianna America's Rose situation. It's like Leia is kind of not being able to explore a natural connection with Joey because she's been kind of shoved into this like producer storyline. And I don't know, personally, I also find it like a little annoying that it's people of color who are kind of being stuffed into these roles. And it's like even more frustrating because I think Joey and Leia actually could have a really good connection, but I almost feel like this is gonna sabotage their relationship in a way, or like make it harder for them to connect in an organic way, even though I think they could actually be a really good match. But let's see how it pans out. I'm happy she just threw the thing in the fire so she doesn't have to deal with that storyline anymore. She was kind of like, listen, I get that this is actually more of a curse than an advantage. I'm going to throw it away and hope that I can actually have a clean slate with Joey. And I hope that it works in her favor, in the sense that I hope that they actually get to start interacting on a more normal basis instead of this like weighted way where they're like interacting because, they've been placed in these roles where they have to interact. Versus it feels like, with any other girl, Joey gets to just like have a normal organic relationship and suss out what his vibe is with them. He hasn't been able to do that with Leia, which is, it's just frustrating because I know just based on what we know about her, she's like so cute and interesting, but we haven't gotten to see any of that. We're just seeing her crying because she's been put in a position which you know, I will say, like, we did learn that she has this really big heart, which actually I liked a lot about her. I loved the way she reacted to that card. I feel like this is kind of how I would have reacted too, of just like, oh my God, this is so mean. I would not want to do this. And it doesn't even make, I mean, the card didn't even make any sense. It wasn't even really an advantage because in addition to it being really mean to like take a one-on-one from another girl, it's also like doesn't actually help your relationship with Joey to have him be excited to go on a date with some girl and then to be like, nope, you're going on a date with me instead of having him actually choose you for a date. Like, it doesn't actually, it's like awkward. Like, it would be very awkward for Joey to have like a whole date planned for a girl he was excited to get to know. And then Leia like is like, just kidding, it's me. Like, it's like, that wouldn't even be good. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't even be like that fun. And so it just felt like a total fake advantage type of thing. So I'm glad she threw it in the fire, and I do think that showed a lot about her intelligence and her emotional, like her empathy. So we did learn about her values, and to that point, like, I will say I kind of get why Joey gave her the rose, both in the sense that it felt like an obligation maybe, but also I do think in terms of who we learned the most about depth-wise, we did learn the most about Leia in terms of like her values, as opposed to any other woman. Like, if Joey is like really looking for, you know, who am I actually getting to know in a more real and raw way, he did actually get to know something really meaningful about Leia, as opposed to all the other girls where he, you know, still just like sussing out like the banter level of connection. So I kind of get it from that sense, and maybe that speaks to what Joey cares about or prioritizes, but I completely agree with you that it did feel a little bit like I'm still not sure if they have a connection yet.
I'm looking forward to them having conversations where they're not like huddling over a secret envelope, deciding what to do with this like really big thing. I think that she was almost too good for that card. That card would have been serviced better for like a villain or for one of the sisters, you know, somebody that wouldn't have minded being disruptive and making waves. But even then, it would have just been, I don't know if it really made sense for Joey's season for them to put in that twist. So I hope that the producers are really thinking about what would actually make sense for each Bachelor and kind of tailoring the twist. Because I just think that Joey would have been so turned off if one of his frontrunners took a one-on-one away from somebody before hometowns. It just, they're so precious, and he picks each person that it just sucks that a random person that America selected just gets to come in at the 11th hour and just do something that it's sabotaging somebody. And then my two other standouts are pretty oppositional, but I think this shows that I'm not totally sure who Joey's gonna pick quite yet in terms of like what energy he's gonna go for. I know, like, we haven't discussed it yet, and I can't wait to hear yours too. I think Maria is one of my front runners for Joey. She was really combative with him, but I think in a playful way that he enjoyed. She was like riffing and making fun of his favorite movie, and then he was taking all of the Gemini slander. I'm a Gemini, so I was like, whoa, what is with this? I'm so happy that he is really sticking up for us out there in the world. Because she was just like coming in hot, making fun of him and teasing him, and Joey really likes it. And then the other side is Daisy. I always look at the music whenever somebody steps out of the limo, and it was always this like really gentle sweeping music. She like steps out, she's super giggly and smiley, just like Joey. Joey said that she had a soft-spoken demeanor that immediately pulled him in. And I would say that's probably how women would describe Joey. So it's like he's almost like, you know, I was like, that's Joey to a T. This really gentle soul that when you're talking to him, he's just like, I'm giving you presence, I'm giving you attention, and they're just so connected to that. Daisy does the exact same thing. She's always smiling, always giggling. Her and Joey have a Sunday morning kind of love, or like a sweet love, or maybe they see each other and it's kind of like butterflies. That's a very different kind of personality than like the Maria, because Daisy is so sweet. So those are my two front runners, or my three front runners.
I think Charity is like the mold that I keep comparing all the women to. Charity is both like, she's so fun, she can really like get down and like have a good time, and like she's really good at the banter. Like, she can really hold the conversation really well, but then she's also so intelligent, so, like, empathetic and emotionally aware. She's got so much depth to her, and she can really go there in the conversations.
Yes.
So she really holds both things at the same time, and I feel like that's the perfect combination of traits for Joey. And so that is kind of what I'm like, holding each woman up to like that standard.
Valid.
So
and what a standard.
I know it is
high
kind of
bar
a
to
harsh
clear.
standard, but like yeah exactly. Daisy, totally. I think she's a shoo-in for hometowns. I kind of can see her going definitely all the way up to the top 2, frankly. I think she just, based on their interaction, she was the only person who I saw, the way Joey looked at her, I actually was like, ooh, you can tell he's like very
he likes her,
attracted to her. He was like very interested in her in a way that it was so obvious. The way he looked at her, I think right before they kissed, it was so... I was like,
intimate. I know.
Like, oh my gosh. So that was the only, in my opinion, like very genuine kind of spark that I saw. So Daisy to me feels like I feel very confident in her, unless she like chooses to leave at some point. I can't imagine Joey being the one to send her home. But so she is the one I would say like absolutely would be maybe of all these women, I would actually pick her.
The one thing about Joey that is very apparent is that he, even though he's not really at this point revealing a lot about himself, his face does communicate a lot. And when he looks at Daisy, he is looking at her so softly. And I can tell that spark that he was looking for, where he was like, yeah, like I kind of want that story where I can say I knew that she was going to be my wife on day one. I immediately got that with Joey and Daisy. That's the only person where it actually felt like, yes, like he would have chosen her in this setting, in any other setting they would have been thrown in. He would gravitate towards Daisy and she would gravitate towards him.
So she would be probably my top pick for him. Then there are some other girls who I really liked and I feel like he really liked. Different story as to whether I think they'll go far. Like Daisy's the one that I like feel very confident in, just based on this interaction, that it's such a good match. So some of the other girls that I really liked Jenn a lot. Jenn was the other girl who played tennis, and they talked like about doing singles matches. I don't know anything about tennis. I don't know. I didn't really know what they were talking about, but they're talking about whatever,
something they had in common
stuff. And he seemed very happy and excited that she was genuinely interested in tennis, and they had like a good kind of volley back and forth. The chemistry I felt like was totally there. So I actually thought that Jenn felt like a very strong, potent match for him. Like maybe if they continue getting to know each other. Not the same immediate spark that I saw with Daisy, but I kind of felt like these two could really grow into an interesting relationship. I feel like we need to know more about Jenn. I didn't feel like we got that much of her personality yet, but I did kind of feel like they had a really good dynamic. So I would probably put Jenn pretty far along. The other girl that I was also noting was Lexi. Lexi was another girl who also talked about being athletic. I feel like maybe he's like into that, like sporty girls a little bit, but she talked about...
He like, sure did light up. Yeah.
Right! She was talking about playing golf, and he was like, oh, you're a golfer! Like, he was so
He said it in the most flirtatious tone. I was like, oh, you like sporty girls. Okay, noted, Joe.
He also seemed to really like that Lexi mentioned that this was not her usual speed, that she's not usually like Miss Glamour girl. And he was like, oh, like you look like a girl who would be like really glamorous, but I kind of like that this isn't your speed. So I think that he maybe likes a girl who has a bit of a down-to-earth energy, which I agree with him. Lexi didn't initially appear like that. She seemed very glamorous. I was like, this must be like a supermodel, IG model or whatever. But she was like, no, I don't usually do this kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. And he seemed to like that kind of more timidness. I don't know if it's timidness, but just like a more like down-to-earth personality type. I also noted Maria in that conversation. I'm like not fully sure where it's going, but I noted that as an interesting connection that felt different from some of the other ones. The other girl was Kelsey A. I don't have like too much that I caught from their conversation, but it was just kind of the way he talked about her in his In the Moment interview. He was just like, she's just so pretty. I really like her. Like the things that he said just
go far on this show.
I know, right? So I was like, okay, cool. Okay. And she was really pretty, so I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, those would be the girls. But I would say maybe if I had to pick a top 4, I would pick Daisy, Jenn, Lexi, Maria. Maybe I would even pick Kelsey over Maria, even though I don't have anything to say about Kelsey other than the fact that he thought she was pretty. I think maybe I would pick her for some reason, but those would probably be my standouts. I think in every season there's like kind of a mix of women who are actually like great, like viable options for the lead versus like girls who are kind of more like great television, super pretty, big personalities, drama fodder. Like there is a lot, I think there's like maybe a mix of like half and half in most seasons. And in this season, it kind of felt more like 70-30. Like 70% of the women were like great TV, hot drama, etc. And then maybe 30% of them were like viable matches for Joey. That's how I felt anyway. Watching him talk to them all, there's only a handful of them that I really was like, okay, this is great. Yeah. And maybe again, it speaks to like Joey being maybe more of a niche taste. One thing I will say though is I love that there was a lot of like Asian contestants who seemed to be doing well. That was great. I just always love to see it. Leia's Filipino.
Will they make it far?
I'm Filipino. I know. So I'm rooting for you, Leia.
I'm rooting for Jenn because she's Vietnamese. So I was like, oh my gosh. It's just amazing to see representation on TV. And it would be nice to just see an Asian winner for once. You know? I know. That's just our personal bias. So who do you think will go far in a season? Are there any frontrunners that you really like? By the way, if you've watched this point in the video and you aren't subscribed to our channel yet, hit that subscribe button. We do this every single week, and we're going to recap every single episode of The Bachelorette and The Bachelor and so on. So please subscribe and follow along. That leads to the grand question, do we think that Joey's going to find love in his season? And I am an optimist. I feel like Joey is kind of following in the footsteps of the Charity and Dotun thing. He is going to find his partner on the show. I know that the start of the episode started with that little bit of that fake out of him crying as a car drove away and the final rose is like blowing in the wind. I mean, in my opinion, I felt like that was clearly just him sending home his runner-up and like the person he's gonna get the final rose to, that's who he's gonna find the happy ending with. But I feel fully confident that he is going to be engaged at the end of this.
Yeah, I think that he'll find love as well. I agree that he just seems like I don't know, I just feel like he will approach it in such a level-headed way and just more realistically maybe than I think a lot of leads do. I think a lot of people on the show are just like very much in the fantasy of it as opposed to being really practical or thoughtful about like, is this real? Can this actually exist in real life? And Joey just seems like the kind of guy who just has the emotional intelligence to really suss out whether a connection is, just a thing happening on television or just a thing that's like honeymooning and we're just, kind of riding the highs, or is it actually something with longevity? He just seems like the kind of guy who can understand that and suss that out. And so I have more faith in him, I would say, than other leads. And I think it all like kind of comes down to that level of emotional intelligence and that ability to really understand what's happening in your relationship. And I think he just has it. I mean, Charity too, right? I think Charity just has that level of awareness, self-awareness, emotional awareness that it makes sense to me why she's able to really make sense of her relationships and kind of only lean into the ones that feel like they're super real. And I think other leads struggle with that and sometimes, follow, like chase a high, chase a fantasy. And I don't know that Joey would do that. The only way that I can see Joey not working out, like his season not working out, is if it turns out that he doesn't have a genuine connection with anyone. But I don't really see that happening personally. Like based on that teaser, it just felt like, he's going to send a runner-up home and then propose to the next woman. So That would be my prediction. I think there's a happy ending waiting for us. And I hope so. He's so cute. I want him to be happy.
It's a classic love story. I think they've brought back a bachelor that we can really root for, who's in the right time of his life to have a serious long-term relationship, whether that's an engagement, a marriage, whatever it looks like. I think that Joey's going to definitely find his next committed partner by the end of this.
Okay, let us know. What do you all think? How do you think Joey's season will end? What kind of season do you think we're going to have with him? Do we think that he's going to find love? Tell us in the comments down below. Also, if you didn't know, you can also listen to these recaps over on podcasts. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we're coming to more podcast platforms soon. So make sure if you want to listen to us in that way, you go find us there, subscribe, rate us, all of the things. It's always great and helpful. And we want to find you wherever you are. So come find us in those places that we are.
We'll be there waiting for you.
Okay, we will see you all next week for week 2 of Joey's season. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss a video, and we will see you then. Bye.